What's up, Pats Nation? Michael Lakis here. It is episode 2 of the Pats Tailgate Party podcast, PTPP, as Andrew said last week, or just PTP, whatever you want to call it. My name is Michael Lakis, joining you here today with my brother and my dad. And remember, this is the podcast where fans come to discuss, debate, hopefully celebrate their New England Patriots. I'm doing well today and excited to be here. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for getting us started here. It was a lot of fun last week. I was a little happier this past Sunday. So I think I'm happier joining today.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Much better week 2. Dad, how are you today, man?
Hey, guys, I'm doing real well. Really enjoyed last week. I look forward to being able to see you two guys at least once a week. So it's great.
How's the weather down there at the beach?
It's cleared off. Rain for the last 2 days, but it's beautiful this afternoon.
That's good. That's good. I like to hear it. It's down here, and it's funny. We have a Patriots podcast, and we all live in the South, which is really funny. I think we talked a little bit about that last week, right? Andrew, weather in Durham is good. Is it cooled off at all there? Dad says it's still warm in the Carolinas.
No, New England day over here. 72, 73. Leaves are changing color. No humidity.
Man.
Yeah, the humidity's gone down here too, so it's good.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And you know what? I had a morning. I was sitting outside this morning on the back porch down here in Austin, Texas, and it was 62 degrees. I was like, oh man, this is wonderful. Now I think it's already up to 90 now, but it'll come down. It gets cooler in the morning, cooler in the evening for sure. So we're happy to be here. Week 2 in the books, and a much better week, like Andrew alluded to, much better week in week 2 than we had in week 1 with the disappointing loss to the Dolphins. The Patriots win 25-6 against the New York Jets. I got to tell you, it's always fun to beat up on the New York Jets, fellas. They're awful. The Jets are just horrible, man. I mean, I was watching that game last week, and I can't imagine being a Jets fan. I just got to tell you, that is bad. I thought about it. We were talking last week in week 1 about how we were frustrated. And Andrew, you brought up the point about everybody else's fan base, right? And I thought to myself, as I was watching that game on Sunday, we're still not Jets fans. I mean, you could be a Jets fan, right? So any takeaways you guys had from the game? Obviously, Pats cover the spread. I think you guys got that right in your predictions. I did not. But any takeaways you guys had from week 2?
Well, I was happy with the outcome, and I was really pleased with the scheme defensively. I thought they did a real good job, and normally Belichick schemes real well against the rookie quarterback. That didn't change any. And, interception on the second play of the game never hurts. I thought the run defense still bothers me a little bit. Gap responsibilities aren't real good sometimes, but, they did enough to win. I hope they can clean up some of the offensive situation. But again, they did just enough to win, didn't turn the ball over, and came out with a much needed W.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's interesting you talk about the interception. I mean, I don't know what Zach Wilson was seeing out there, but it reminded me, Andrew, you brought up, I think we talked Sunday evening about Sam Darnold on Thanksgiving. No, was it Thanksgiving or what? No, was it Thanksgiving or was it Christmas when they played, when Sam Darnold saw Ghost? When was that? I can't even remember when that was.
I think it was in December.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The boogeyman. The boogeyman. That's right. So he was, I don't know. I mean, they let the kid play, obviously. And I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be good, but holy smokes, he was awful on Sunday. Andrew, any takeaways for you?
No, I mean, much more enjoyable game to watch. Defense, I thought looked a lot better. Offense wasn't a whole lot of fun to watch, other than the running game was strong. I mean, Damian Harris's touchdown was a lot of fun. I think he broke like 7 tackles.
That was awesome.
Took it in. But, I think still a little sloppy compared to what we're used to. But, win's a win. I mean, to the point I made last week, I've had to reset my expectations as a Patriots fan here a little bit. And the days of wanting it to just be perfect every single time are probably over. So I was happy they were 1-1.
Yeah, me too. Me too, for sure. Go back, Dad, you were talking about the defense. And obviously, we talked last week about the back end, the secondary being the problem. But to your point, man, I just, their run, I mean, I don't know what they're doing. Gap responsibility. I watched some, obviously we're members. We talk about it every show, Boston Sports Journal. Just quick plug for them. Greg Bedard and Boston Sports Journal. If you're not a member, there, it's well worth it. And if you're not a member, you're not getting the best Patriots coverage. So go to Boston Sports Journal right now, sign up. You will not regret it. It'll be one of the best investments you make as a fan. But courtesy of Boston Sports Journal, Bedard talked about in his breakdown, he showed quite a few stills in the All 22, or it might have been the TV copy, but he showed, Dad, what you're talking about, which is what should be a wall of blue jerseys or a wall of defenders. And what we saw was just wide open gaps. I mean, we talked about it last episode. You coached offensive line for a long time. I mean, how does that work when you have? I've always wondered this. Maybe as a fan, I don't know if you guys have thought this too, but when you're thinking high school and pros, you got some teams that are just better than others. You got better players. The pros, you got top 1% everywhere. So how do you scheme that, Dad? If you're on a defense, I'm going to take you the opposite direction. You're on a defense. How do you scheme and make sure that you're playing the right gaps? I mean, how does that happen?
Well, I mean, I think in today's game, most of the run game is pretty much the same across the league. I mean, It's a lot of it's gap read, a lot of it's outside gap, those kinds of things. And basically you have to play in the gap. I mean, if you're an A gap player, you better be in the A gap. You're a B gap player, you better be in the B gap. And as a result, you hope your linebackers can flow and also cover the places they're supposed to be. And one of the things that I see happening quite a bit with the Patriots is when these guys get pushed out of a gap, there's no flow from the back. I mean, as soon as they get to the edge, and you saw it against the Jets, they're through and they're into the secondary. I mean, it just, they're getting caught up in traffic. I don't know.
Well, so wait a minute. So I understand, I understand, hey, there's different letters for gaps and you got to play the gap.
Right.
How do they get stood up like that? I mean, there were holes open everywhere. I don't understand how that happens, especially with the Belichick coach defense, like how that happens. Like, I guess I just don't get it from a fan perspective. Like, how does that even happen?
A lot of it could be technique. If they're playing too high, if they're letting the offensive player get leverage, there's a lot of different things to it. But in a simple solution is you hold your ground.
Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of that happening with these interior guys of the Patriots. And they're supposed to be guys that they brought here to alleviate that problem.
Well, how about they play some players that are actually good? I mean, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah. The only thing I'd offer though is that, I do think the technique isn't strong and the new guys they've got on the line, better keep improving or it's going to be a really long season. The one thing I'd add though is that I think to your point about not seeing the flow from the back, Dad, I think some of that might have been by design this week. I mean, the sense I got watching it and reading Bedard's article was that while things could get cleaned up, that this was a very Belichickian game plan. I mean, he knew if the Jets wanted to run the ball for 5-6 yards a clip, they were going to be able to, because what he was banking on was Wilson trying to make a play with his arm. And so you're not going to bring your safeties up and you're not going to shade your linebackers and your cornerbacks, as you don't want them to be as aggressive in the run, because the whole thing you're trying to do is okie doke, trying to get them to throw into that coverage and get an interception. So while the technique needs to get better, and I actually think in some ways it made me a little bit more confident, a little bit more, excited about the outcome, that they had a defensive game plan that they seemed to execute with fidelity, and overall it worked. So I just, I see it a little bit differently. I don't think that, you're wrong about the technique piece, but I also think that might have been the way they were purposely playing defense on Sunday to get Wilson into throwing the ball.
So, and again, sorry, Mike. That Belichick obviously has a history of preparation especially against younger quarterbacks. And I agree with what you're saying. I agree with what Bedard said. Let them run the ball. Okay. And they weren't going to beat the Patriots running 50, 60 times, in that situation. However, the Dolphins ran the ball the week before as well. So my concern is that it's more of a consistent problem than just a game planning situation for the New York Jets. We'll see. I mean, as the season goes on, I don't disagree with your breakdown of it, Andrew, but I just see some consistencies coming from week to week as far as the responsibilities and so on and so forth, not quite getting cleaned up.
Well, so I think you guys bring up great points, both of you. I think, and going back, I kind of alluded to it a second ago, and how I said it, I didn't mean to say they don't have good players. What I don't understand is, and this has been said, right? But from a fan's perspective, we have a very small look at what happens, right? We don't get to fans don't go to practice. They're all closed off. The media can't even go to practice during the week. But I don't understand. I'm just going to bring it because I think this is a common concern with fans. And I don't understand why they don't play some of their players. And so what I mean by that is, Andrew, I think you're right. Last week, it looked like they played soft kind of in the first half. Wilson made some mistakes, and then they really pinned their ears back late, which is why they got a few sacks. But, Dad, you brought up last week about Uche not playing much. I mean, he played 40% of the snaps on Sunday. Instead, we got, who was it? Bauer, who just got elevated off the practice squad. They got more snaps than him. Like, I don't understand. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I don't really understand what they're doing from a personnel standpoint. Now, again, they won 25-6. So, take some of this with a grain of salt. But I just don't get it. But I mean, I guess that's part of being a fan, right? It's like we don't understand some of that stuff. To me, it's just really frustrating when I see guys out there that I think are probably less than some of the other players standing on the sidelines.
Well, the only thing I can say from my experience is that you're going to normally, as a coach, you think you play guys that have earned the right to play or that are your top guys. Now, obviously, we've been around Belichick. Watching him for 20 years now, 20 plus years now. And he's not always doing things that we understand for sure, especially from a personnel standpoint. But I mean, I had the same questions you guys had last week, and maybe there's things going on in practice. Maybe there's things going on, like to your point, Mike, we're not there. I don't know what goes on in the meeting room. I don't know what goes on in the locker room, but I some of the guys I would think would be playing, especially when you had guys like Van Noy was out last week.
Right.
And you had some other guys who were out last week. You'd think you'd see a little bit more from some of the other guys.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. And until one day he writes a book and tells us all his secrets, we won't know.
Maybe.
But I think the way you got to think about these things, it's frustrating as a fan. I mean, I watched, these young guys and I'm like, get them some more talent. I think the thing that is hard for us to wrap our minds around as fans is the cerebral way in which Bill Belichick thinks about not only football, but thinks about strategy. And I bet he's this way in most facets of his life. You got to understand that Belichick's number one strategic priority is consistency. He doesn't care if you could be in the 99th percentile of athleticism or talent and make an exceptional play, if you could also be in the bottom 1 percentile and give up a big play. Every single thing that man does, from the way he builds his roster to the way he emphasizes special teams to the fact he wouldn't keep Brady because he was worried he'd fall off a cliff, is that he wants to know as much as he can about everything that's going to happen, because from that consistency, he actually can strategize and make decisions. It isn't a popular strategy. Most folks don't have the patience in life to do these things. But I think that's the only way you can understand the way Bill Belichick does things, is that I don't know what it is, but maybe it's that he can count on Bauer to be where Bauer's supposed to be, even if he's 70% of the player Uche is, he knows Bauer will be where he needs him to be. And that's what then allows, JC Jackson to make an interception. I have no clue. I'm not that smart. I don't understand the game. But I do think it's funny when people talk about, reporters ask Bill Belichick about analytics, and he always gives some kind of gruff answer and talks about how
unless he's talking about long snappers, because he gave a 15-minute answer the other day about long snapping. So.
But the irony and all
purposely.
Yeah, but the irony in all this is that he acts like analytics are silly and he doesn't do them. And the man has been doing analytics in his own brain for 40-something years as a coach.
Sure.
I mean, he plays to the odds every single time. He'd be a heck of a blackjack player. Probably wouldn't be real good at craps.
It's the most boring. It's the most boring game in the casino. Blackjack. Don't get me started on blackjack. Come on.
Well, a lot of people would say watching the Patriots play offense is the most boring game on the TV.
Yeah.
So it goes hand in hand, right? I mean,
But the best thing about Bill Belichick is he has the drive and the commitment that he does not care what it looks like to you or me or anybody else. He cares if they win.
No, you're right. I'm with you. And I think you make a really good point. I actually think this has nothing to do with football. I actually think he'd be a really good craps player because you can there's it's the best odds in the house. I don't think he'd play a lot of roulette though. I think he'd probably stay away from
roulette.
Maybe not as much Caribbean stud, maybe you just stick to craps and blackjack. But so I think you bring up a great point. And I think, sometimes to me though, and this is fan frustrations, right? But this is the point of the show, is that I literally think to myself, you're right. Bauer probably is where he wants him to be 70% of the time. My problem is, can you find a guy that's in the right place 70% of the time that's not getting shoved around all over the place? Like, can you find somebody who's consistent that'll stay there and actually make a play every now and then? Because I could be wrong. I didn't hear much about Bauer's name. I didn't hear his name called very much. Maybe he's doing the little things. And again, we don't see those things. They're looking at the tablet and they're seeing play after play. I don't know. From a fan's perspective, I'm done with the special teams, keeping all the special teams players and making that a large facet of the game. That special teams is almost taken out of the game. I mean, literally, you don't have nearly as many special teams plays. This is something Bedard's talked about for a long time. He's an expert. He doesn't even understand why he keeps a lot of these special teamers or some of these players.
Well, I think I'm not an Belichick you trust kind of guy. The guy can do no wrong. I mean, I'm grateful that he's an amazing, greatest of all time football coach, and it's been fun to be a fan. But this is where I think you have to pull apart Belichick, the coach, from Belichick, the GM. I mean, the reality is it's a false choice, right? You don't have to pick the guy who will be there 70% of the time or the talented guy. You can go find players who do both. I mean, look at Seymour, look at Bruschi, at Hightower, look at Ty Law, look at, go down the list of guys that Belichick had who were talented and great players and able to execute a game plan. The last 5 or 6 years, he's done a piss poor job building that roster.
Yeah.
And he went out and he tried to get talent. And I do think, especially on offense, Henry, Smith, Aguilar, Bourne, they'll be all right. They're going to get it. They'll get the hang of it. It's going to take time. You can't have it both ways. You can't have miss the boat on developing talent, go spend the money and bring the guys in, expect them to be ready to go in a very complex system.
Well, I mean, one more thought along those, and you're absolutely right, Andrew, but one thought along the lines of some of those other guys not playing as much last Sunday. And I think I'm right when I read this in a Bedard column. The game plan in the first half was only rush 4.
Yeah.
So those guys that he brings off the edge, like Uche and them, they're not in the game plan as much at that point in time.
That's a great point.
So as to quote Bedard, when they pinned their ears back in the second half, in the fourth quarter, Winovich and Uche were in the game.
Yeah.
So that's where he got 2 of his sacks, and they called it in garbage time. I don't care if it's garbage time or not. It's 2 sacks.
That's right.
And I did see Uche in the game in the first half playing, and he got absolutely buried on the edge on a run play. So to your point, that may be one of the situations. He can't hold the edge either against the run.
That it's Uche. Uche is.
Isn't that what I just said, Uche?
No, you see.
Anyway,
how about that sounds like he's listening to Alan Jackson over there.
How about 55?
I told you to speak in numbers last week. Andrew, every time you say Ushi, Andrew's dying or he wants to die.
Well, anyway, he got buried on the edge.
No, yeah,
on one of the run plays, and I think he wound up as one of the Jets players watching the game from the sideline because that's where they put him.
Well,
so
yeah, and Belichick wants people to hold the edge. I mean, we know that he's talked about that. That's important. So if he's not doing that, and to you guys' point, if the game plan is to just hold up, I mean, the other reality is Wilson can move. So there's probably some points where, or part of the game plan where he's going, hey, just keep him back there. Let him make a mistake, right? Which he did. He made plenty of them. So I want to transition here and talk a little bit about the offense because you guys were talking about the offense. And that's a hot topic right now. Is it too conservative? Is it the play calling? Is it Mac not throwing the ball downfield? What's happening there? Again, courtesy Boston Sports Journal for Bedard in his columns. But, I think if you really look at it, I think it's a mix of a few things, but Mac had way more plus plays than he did minus plays. But they got to execute better. I think, Andrew, this touches on some of the stuff you brought up earlier, which is some of the, my mind immediately goes to the, I think it was 3rd and long in the first quarter. And they run a kind of a middle screen there to Jonnu Smith. Wasn't a great ball by Mac, but it touched his hands. And the old adage is if it touches your hands, especially as a pro, you got to catch it. And if he catches that, there's possibility for a first down there, possibility that a bigger play than that because he's dynamic, but they're just not executing the little things. Yeah. And these are the things a lot of people don't understand about football. I'm not, trying to sound pompous here, but it's like a sheet of music. Every person in the orchestra has got to do the right thing or else the play breaks down.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think all this other stuff about is McDaniels calling the game properly? Or are they being too conservative? All that's just noise. You got a group of guys who haven't played together, had very limited reps in the preseason because of the way the preseason's used now. They don't know the system. The timing's off. The timing being off puts things off by a yard or 2 yards. And that, the Patriots run a precision offense.
Right.
Like, you literally have to be where you need to be so that the play can work. Part of that is because they don't go out and get game-breaking talent.
Right. Well, yeah.
So the maestro has to, pen one heck of a sheet of music as opposed to just saying, hey, let's play some jazz here. Y'all cut loose.
Yeah. Okay.
And, and you watch jazz every time you watch the Kansas City Chiefs. And let's be honest, it's awesome. I wish we could just send 15 back there and launch it down the field.
Well, I watched it too in 2007. I watched it, but it's the only time I've ever watched it. So,
well, the other thing I'll say is that I saw some real bright spots on Sunday. They ran. James White looked a lot more like himself. They ran the screen to White. He had a huge play out of it. They blocked that really well. The other thing they're having a problem with now, and I hope Mac Jones doesn't get killed, but up front, the offensive line is a mess. And part of that is because, as Andrew alluded to with some other things, consistency. They don't have the same guys playing the same positions every week.
That's right.
You can't take Trent Brown out of there and replace him with the 2 guys they've replaced them with and get what you get from the big guy at tackle. So, and then halfway through the game, they have to replace one of the guys. So now you're dealing with consistency as the game goes on. That's a problem.
That's the 2 things I'd hit on, and all I've got to offer on the offense. It's not a whole lot of fun to watch other than those great runs and James White looking better. It's twofold. I think one, they need to be really intentional about giving Mac spots where he can cut loose and make a mistake. Like, the only way to learn in life is to make mistakes. Like, his brain literally needs to be rewired. You heard him in the comments after the game, I take what they give me, they're going to have to be really intentional about, look, if you throw an interception here, throw an interception, but let's dial something up for you to throw down the field.
Right.
But Dad, to your point, for that to work, the offensive line has to block. You can't go downfield when you don't have time to throw. And so that's my bigger takeaway. I think I put this in the comments section of the, one of Greg's articles this week, is like the thing people don't talk about in 2001, 20 years since Brady came in, Bledsoe got hit. Everybody remembers Brady. It was a magical season. Belichick spent a ton of time and free agent money on reconstructing the offensive line and defensive line that year. And that is why they won a Super Bowl. In the NFL, if you can't dominate the lines of scrimmage, you're not going far, and you're not going to be a consistently good team. Talked about earlier with the defense, got to be able to stop the run. Same thing on offense. You have to be able to dictate the physicality and the pace of play by having a dominant line, and that can be running, it can be passing. Right now, they're just struggling across the board. They're missing blocks. Timing's off. I think the good news here is that can get better with time. I mean, there is talent on the defensive and offensive lines. It's just not gelling right now.
Well, and again, just reiterate what you're saying, and you're right. Offensive and defensive lines have been the key to this game of football since the game started, and it's not going to change any. So they'll get better for sure. It's just a matter of, how long it takes them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Here's the other thing, and then I want to move on to week 3. But I think the other thing that we forget sometimes is that there's also another team on the other side of the field, and sometimes the other team makes plays. And so what I mean by that, as a fan, we get really into our team and what we did well and what we didn't do well. There's a few times in that game where, I think the Pats thought that a defensive end, for instance, was going to continue upfield, and they didn't. Right. Or the cornerback makes the play where Max got to decide between the swing pass out to the running back or to Jonnu Smith on a screen. And the cornerback makes a great play and sits in the middle. So he's got to make a late decision. So I think that's the other thing. And as a fan, it's hard sometimes because I don't want to give the Jets credit for anything. I hate the Jets. Like, it suck. Right. But that's not the way that life works, So
I will say, though, that the Jets do have some pretty good players on defense.
Oh, no doubt.
I mean, Mosley's a heck of a player. Yeah. And they got some other guys that can play on defense. And they made to your point, Mike, they made plays.
Yep.
So,
that's right.
And the Patriots still scored 25 points.
Yep.
And they turned 17 of those points came off turnovers. Well, that's how you win games.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Hey, is somebody over there hitting wind chimes, Andrew, in your house or something?
No, right next to me.
Oh, I thought it was a dog rolling around on the ground with a toy.
No,
that's awesome.
No, I'm outside. Mike.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm laughing. I'm just messing. So week 3, we got week 3 coming up. One thing, we actually had one of our listeners, Elliot Powell from Miami, Florida. We got nationwide reach here on the PTPP. He texted and said, hey, why are they, send in a question, asked why are they in week 3, Saints at the Patriots, why are they celebrating Julian Edelman? That's why I'm wearing his jersey today. Why are they celebrating Julian Edelman at halftime? So before we talk about what we want to see from the game standpoint, you guys have any thoughts on that? I mean, listen, Edelman, in my opinion, is he's he might be my favorite Patriot, him and Kevin Falk. Falk's up there still is probably my all-time favorite, but nothing like the direct snap, man, the Falk, man. And Andrew, you brought this up the other day. The fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame, forget the Patriots Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame for being the best scat back or pass catching back ever is a travesty, but I digress. So the point is, Edelman, you're not going to wait till week 4, right? They're not going to wait till the Bucks game. Right. But any thoughts on why you think they're doing it this week, Dad?
Well, they're going to do it this week because they want it to be all about Edelman.
Right.
Which makes sense. He's the ultimate Patriot. He needs to be all about Edelman. And the next week's just going to be a fiasco in Foxborough. So I'm sure that's not going to be,
I can't wait for the next podcast when we preview that.
Oh man, I'll go and tell you right now.
Whoa, hold on. You spoiler alert here. Tell us what?
Well, no, I'll have more I think that's going to get overplayed all week. I think everybody's going to be nervous about it. I think y'all are sleeping on Bill Belichick if you don't think he's going to have he's going to treat that game against Tom Brady the way he treated the Super Bowls, the first Patriots Super Bowl and the one with the Giants.
Well,
when he shut down the Bills. they'll be all right next Sunday night.
I don't.
It'll be a good game.
I think so too.
I think you're right on target, and I think the Patriots actually have a good chance of winning that game. But all I'm doing is I was commenting on the Edelman thing. They're not going to do it that week.
Brady, too much going.
Gronk. Brady and Gronk.
Well, and you also have to worry that Edelman's going to just like tear off his his suit and have a Bucks jersey on. And join the Empire.
Wow.
Well, that would
Andrew,
be it, Ben.
Don't do that. Don't do that. First of all, they got to do Edelman this week because it's obviously the next week's going to be crazy. I agree with you that they have a good chance of winning next week. I just hope you've talked about Super Bowls. I just hope they treat it like the Super Bowls you talked about, not so much like the Eagles Super Bowl. We don't want to treat it like that. So they've treated some Super Bowls better than others, to be sure. But I do think that I do have just a question for the audience. And for us, we'll figure it out when it gets there. But I mean, is there any world where they celebrate Brady in week 4 at halftime?
Not as far as BB's concerned. I don't
think. Yeah, but Kraft might want to celebrate him, right?
Well,
I don't think you can celebrate a guy still playing, and I don't even mean that from it wouldn't be right to do it.
Right.
I hope when Brady comes back next week, he gets a heck of a ovation. Everybody honors him when the coins flipped and we're ready to play.
Let's go.
It's time to go. But you got to do that when you got retired. You can't. I mean, for an NFL athlete to be in the mental space of preparation and being ready. I mean, they get hurt if they're not focused out there. You can't do any kind of before the game or halftime.
Right.
No,
he'll come back when he retires when he's 52. After about 5
he'll still be playing when he's 52.
He'll come back. He'll come back to Foxborough and we'll celebrate him. And I joke, but I don't think you can do anything when somebody's playing.
No, and he'll get a rousing ovation in Foxborough next week. They'll go crazy, and so will 87. That's just the way it's going to be.
That drives you nuts, Dad. Gronk drives you.
Oh my God. I can't stand that.
It drives you crazy, especially now when he's playing like
and
Gronk.
now you see him on TV on every ad they're doing. Gronkowski.
Hey, Gronk, how's your back doing? You look like you're doing well.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
Wow.
And I love him too, and he was great. But I don't begrudge Brady one bit. I mean, it was the right time.
Yeah,
he was ready to move on. Belichick was ready to move on.
He's got a pretty
good one. Yeah, the Gronk one is harder because I'm like, come on, dude, toughen up.
You're right. And Brady's got a pretty good thing. Brady's got a pretty good thing going right now. So, easy there. You all right there?
Oh no, I'm good. I'm good.
I would say the Gronk does too.
You okay?
All right.
Dad, you all right over there?
All right, guys.
All right, so let's talk week 3, then we're gonna get out of here. Week 3, we got Saints, we got Pats. Anything you guys looking for as final thoughts? Saints were awful last week. I think they won't look as bad as they did last week. I can tell you that.
Well, I'll start us. I got 2 thoughts. One, I think people are sleeping on the Panthers. I think they're actually a lot better than people think.
Yeah, I think so.
Rule's a good coach. Every team he's ever had from every program he's turned around. Year 2, they make a huge jump from year 1, and that defense is loaded with talent. And I think that's what the Saints ran into last week. I don't think that was as much about Saints being bad as it was about the Panthers being legitimate. That being said, I think, I think their defense is, will give Mac challenges. I think it all comes down to the line play. I feel pretty good though. I mean, I think Belichick will use a similar game plan. I would imagine to what he did with Wilson last week. A little more complexity because Jameis isn't a rookie, but sit back and let Jameis make a mistake. And imagine they'll probably also try to neutralize Kamara.
Please
double team him, take him out. And let the other Saints receivers go beat them. I like our chances. I think I don't know that we're in the business of really blowing anybody out convincingly these days, but I would imagine it's a 7-point, 10-point type win for the Patriots.
Oh, they're given 3, so they're a 3-point favorite at home. Dad, any thoughts on the game before we get out of here?
I was getting ready to just follow with Andrew said. I think the game plan will be a lot like the same one for the Jets. So you may see Kamara go crazy a few times, but I think Jameis will make a mistake. So put in that position, and that's what they'll do. They'll put him in a position where the game comes down to Jameis having to make plays. And I don't think he's as capable of doing that as some of the other guys around.
Yep, I think you're right. My thought is I just want to see us get better. I want to see us execute better. And to you guys talk about it all the time, right? As a fan, I just want to see some smooth plays. I want to see some good execution across the board and some stuff that we can build on, especially going in to week 4. I don't think they will, but I don't want them to look ahead to week 4. That's usually more of a college thing than a pro thing, because every week counts. Every week is important. But my last final thought is if you're playing DraftKings or any daily fantasy sports, don't pick the Patriots like my brother and I did last week in the Millionaire Maker. That didn't work out very well. So even though they scored 25 points, we didn't fare so well. So if you're betting, good bet. If you're playing daily fantasy sports like we like to do, I'd probably wait a little bit until the Patriots are a little bit more of a well-oiled machine. But that's just, that's my fantasy advice for the week. So guys, any final thoughts before we get out of here? Anything else?
No, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, me too. All right. Enjoy the game. 12 Central Time. Sorry. 1 p.m. Eastern Time in Foxborough. If you're going to the game, have fun. Be safe. Patriots favored by 3. Total 42. Hopefully we move to 2-1 and can celebrate it next week before we get ready for a huge week 4 matchup next week on episode 3 of the Pat's Tailgate Party podcast. For Andrew, for Doug, for myself, we'll see you next time.